I'm Nicole.
And I'm Ken.
And today we're doing 2 Thessalonians. For the history...
See 1 Thessalonians.
See 1 Thessalonians. So the community has kind of experienced... We know it's very early in Paul's ministry. It's an earlier letter. 1 Thessalonians is probably the earliest letter, and so 2nd comes after. But probably not too much after. It's not like it comes after like Romans comes after 20 years later. So what's happened in the community is they've really taken Paul's words to heart about not being fearful of the coming of the Lord, of Christ's second coming, to not be so anxious. And so what's happened is they've become lazy. They're like, whoo! Don't have to worry about that. Don't have to worry about law keeping. Don't really have to worry about community formation because Christ is coming back. Let's enjoy what time we have. Mm-hmm. This is termed antinomianism.
Antinomianism, I think.
Nomianism?
Yeah.
Okay, it means
antinomian.
It's from anti, against, nomis, law, ism. People group. Set of belief. Ism. Yeah. Ism is for belief. So they go totally against the law, which for Paul sounds like, oh, cool, against the law. He's kind of against the law. But they do it in such an extreme fashion where it's like a free-for-all. It's very much like, you guys all remember Y2K and the year 2000 and everyone thought the end is coming. Yeah. Let's live it up. And that's what they're doing. They become idle. Yeah. And so Paul, I think, has to walk.
Do you know The Office? Do you know the movie?
Oh.
Is it Office Space?
Office Space.
Office Space, yeah. There's a great point in this movie, great part, where a guy is hired to come in to figure out, like, who's worth keeping and who should be fired. And there's just one guy who he wants to get fired. Mm-hmm. So that's his goal. So he comes into this, I don't know what you call him, this executor, and he just puts his feet up on the desk. And the guy goes, so, looks like you've been missing a lot of work. He goes, I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob. Great. That's Paul's community here. That's the 2 Thessalonians. They're like, Jesus is coming back, and future looks bright, and I'm wearing shades. Yeah,
they've got it made. They are in retirement.
They are, and it hasn't. They're young.
Yeah. They
are. Does Paul like this, Nicole?
No.
Not for it.
Yeah. So he has to kind of walk this tightrope between idleness and anxiety. Where it's like, you don't have to freak out, but you should still do stuff. Yeah.
And he really, he talks about his own work.
Uh-huh.
So he's doing the work of spreading the gospel and caring for these communities. And he expects payment for this work.
Yeah.
And so his call then is for them to be responsible.
And engaged in this earthly life while they still have it.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that. We should also mention the antinomianism, antinomiist. Is that right? I say it wrong. I can spell it. This creeps up all the time in church history.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
ooh, tell us. Exciting stories.
Let me tell you about the wonders of church history. Every 150 years comes and there's a millennialist rage. This happens during times of communal distress, pretty much always. And within this millennialist thrust, there's always the group who say, woohoo! And decide to just go for it. They don't normally last very long, because they're not doing anything to do outreach, so once they die, it all dies. Or once they realize...
It's basically like you're free from the law,
mm-hmm.
so, they kind of live only for themselves.
Right.
And
mm-hmm.
there's their sexual licentiousness.
Yes, there's the group, the Ranters, which we're not even sure if they're real or not, but they probably were. in 17th century England, where they would have bacchanals out in the woods, which were just drunken orgies in the name of Christ.
But then, I mean, isn't it like other side of this? Like,
Yeah.
we don't really know of their faith from them, right? We
Right.
only know from their enemies.
Right,
In some
but
degree.
the poet William Blake, he was an antinomianist.
Don't hurt yourself.
What?
Like in Finding Nemo, there's
Yeah.
like, what are you? I'm an anemone.
Anemone.
Don't hurt yourself. I have a hard time saying that.
I see an enemy.
What if an
Fair.
enemy is your? What if a sea anemone is your enemy? Never mind. Keep
See
going.
an enemy. Why can't that be a theological term? I don't know.
Exactly.
Student Mystic all over again.
So William Blake.
So William
That's
Blake.
exciting.
I know. 18th century English poet, author, artist. He did great paintings. Was in this anti-law tradition.
Yeah.
And so from him, you get kind of like taste of like this firsthand of what their belief sets are. And he's an antinomian muggleton.
Huh.
That's what he is.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is a really weird, small, hybrid set of denominationalism in England, which was being stamped out. And he's pretty much the only one ever. Because he had like these weird... Because he was... And I was studying this in class, and people were like, oh, that's so weird, he's so many different things. I was like, I don't think that's weird. Because as many of you can probably relate
You're
to...
an expansionist.
No, but it's like, so, I come from, I like to say that I'm a Catholic-tarian of God. Whereas I have some very strong Catholic parts of me from going to Mass in college, because there was a cute boy. So,
That's how it always happens.
you went to church when you were 6 for a girl.
I know. I was older than that.
And like I have some pretty strong Lutheran threads through me, and some really big streams of evangelical fundamental.